Sounds very quiet.
It does. Here we go. All right. So today we're going to continue on with the logic discussion because today is all about the how-tos. It's the roadmap. It's all of the things that we should consider doing, the actions we should be taking. So, I just have to make a couple of disclaimers. The first being that we are medical professionals. In this space right now, we're acting as coaches. So this is generalized information. It's to be taken for informational purposes only, and you would always want to consult with your own physician before making any diet or supplement changes. Also, we are unable to give personalized or specific advice as we don't have a relationship with you, and it would be irresponsible for us to be giving specialized, unique, individual advice to people we don't know. So to that end, I have a further, just kind of letting you know that I know the knowledge seekers that you all are, because I mean, for one thing, you committed to 5 days with us, so that says a lot. But this presentation really is just a starting point. And I know that we are going to give you tons of ideas, some of which is going to be perhaps change a lot of things for you. It's going to be effective. It's going to be meaningful, but it is a generalized how-to roadmap. I don't know your unique situation. I don't know all the variables that make you who you are or make your struggle the way it is. So I cannot give specific recommendations on some questions that are just naturally going to arise today. I know if I can put myself in your shoes and I would want to be, okay, that's great. I want to know more. Just give me all the details. But I'm just not able to do that. So giving things like specific targets for protein or carbs or calories, specific dosages and things on vitamins, for example, is something that we reserve for clients that we work with in coaching, because that allows us to have that ongoing relationship over a long period of time where we can get to know people on an individual basis and make recommendations based on how things are going for them and helping them pivot along the way and knowing them and their story. So, so I'm going to answer questions where I can, but I just wanted to kind of give that as a disclaimer before we get started, because I know that there's a lot of questions that come up and you want like more. So there is definitely a limit to what I'm able to direct you towards. All right, so this is the roadmap. There are 11 things I'm going to talk about tonight. And the number one, and probably, the highest level of kind of advice. Hey, Sarah. So yeah, we'll definitely hit on coaching on hit the opportunities on day 5 for more info. And then also I'll be giving you on day 5 an invitation to come to our info session, which we have monthly, but it happens to be next week. So that's specifically about the coaching program. So you are welcome to come to that too. So there's lots of opportunities to learn more. So I'm missing a slide here. Did I skip it? Or, oh, yeah, I did. Huh.
Back.
Okay. So what we know so far, based on yesterday, and this is the review, okay, we know that balancing blood sugar and insulin are key after we go through a metabolic reset or have our metabolisms adapted to our new situation, which is decreased calorie intake, right? Remember, we think logically we should be losing weight because we're eating so much less than we used to be, but our bodies do not recognize it that way. It doesn't know that. So we also know that as bariatric patients, whether we tend to admit it on a daily basis or not, we are unique. We did have see, that's why I know you can't, you have to be really specific. I'm talking to him. He's driving my keyboard. So,
Improper, of course.
So bariatric surgery brings its own unique needs, and we need to consider both the bariatric surgery needs and the new metabolism needs when it comes to really coming up with a plan that's going to be effective. So what does it take to achieve and maintain success? I'm going to go through what we believe to be the high level must do pieces of the roadmap. But when we've spent a considerable amount of our careers and time and education and continuing education in the science of obesity and in weight loss, this studying the science of fat cells, the effects of metabolism, what does the research say about weight loss after dieting or weight gain after bariatric surgery? And then we have our own personal experience and what we did to combat it and what we suffered with and like what were our big barriers, right? And we have the experience of our patients. So that is kind of all of what leads us to the following pieces of the roadmap. So I feel like I might have messed up my slides here when I was well, we're going to go with it. I think I got my slides, got a little bit out of order. The first thing is number one is low carb eating. So go ahead and type in the chat box some of your favorite low carb foods, and let's see who has like a handle on what is low carb, because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about what low carb is, because I talk to people on the phone all the time and they say, I eat low carb. I don't eat bread and I don't eat pasta.
Well, I see jerky, which so
Eggs, zucchini, mushroom,
egg,
shrimp. All
shrimp.
right, so you all are with it. You guys got some, you kind of understand. Low carb is protein. It's very low carb. Full fat is very low carb. Anything, so we're talking dairy, full fat dairy, seafood, right? Anything kind of protein, whether that's meat, seafood, dairy, eggs. Vegetables that are non-starchy. So it gets a little bit more tricky when we move into vegetables and fruit, right? Because, all vegetables are carbohydrates, but there are some that are very low on the spectrum, right? And then there are some that they're pretty high, like peas or corn or potatoes, right? When it comes to fruit, there's pretty limited choices of low carb fruits because fruit is made of sugar. And so when we talk about eating low carb, Boreas, berries. Yeah, berries. You got it, Felice. I thought maybe you were speaking another language, and I was trying to think real quick. Was that Brussels sprouts? Anyways, when we think about low carb foods and what it takes to really get some success from where we are right now, I think it's an important thing to distinguish two things: healthy foods and weight loss foods. They are very different. So we get caught up in this concept of, well, I eat healthy. All right, that might be true, but that doesn't mean you're eating in a way that's going to promote weight loss, right? Because, many people consider oatmeal as a very healthy food, or bananas, but they will not help you lose weight. So I think that we need to kind of get that clear in our minds that there's a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Nancy says, true story.
So some of the lowest carbohydrate vegetables, I won't, we put some of these in the chat box, and I won't spend much time on the slide because we have a whole low carb food list. I gave it out to a lot of you this week, and I posted it in the document section of the Facebook group. So you can go find it and download it, print it, whatever you'd like. And when we get to the end of today, we'll talk about a little challenge I have for you based on that list. So we'll kind of skip through this section. I just wanted to kind of make sure everybody knows what some of the lower carb vegetables are. And then, Felice was right. When it comes to the lowest carbohydrate fruits, we have berries, and lemons and limes. That's kind of it, right? So we're kind of limited there. I really just can't get past the fact that I'm missing a slide. So
Well, and now you're on number 3, which is, I think you should jump out, check your slides. Okay. Well,
what is happening with my ability to move my slides? I'm not sure. All right, guys, sorry. So we know low carb. Okay, that's important because what we're trying to do, and this is what I was going to talk about on my slide that I can't find right now. What we need to kind of understand about why low carb is important is because we are trying to not give our bodies a reason to raise blood sugar and raise insulin. Because when we raise insulin because of blood sugar elevation, we do a couple things. We block our ability to lose weight because insulin inhibits lipolysis or fat breakdown. We drive, since we're bariatric patients, when we drive up sugar, our blood glucose, insulin goes up to meet it, and then it drops it down. So it's a fast rise, it's a fast fall. And depending on the glycemic index, and many of you have typed along the way this week about reactive hypoglycemia, it's because you have an oversurge of insulin based on the load of sugar in the intestines at one time. And so that overload of insulin is driving down your blood sugar. And then when we're at that low point is when we feel hungry again, shaky, hungry, hypoglycemic, and most likely we're going to eat something starchy or sugary again in order to avoid that feeling or solve that issue. So it's really, balancing blood sugar is really kind of one of the biggest keys in getting weight loss after bariatric surgery and after the honeymoon's over.
And I'd like to just for a second just talk about what balancing your blood sugar means. What we're trying to do is we're trying to flatten the curve of highs and lows, and we're trying to make that elevation and depression more gradual. So that's really what we mean by balancing.
Thank you. So as Bob shared yesterday, where this alludes to our number 2 strategy, which is not eating all damn day long. And a lot of us have gotten into this habit of eating continuously, right? Small meals frequently, picking, grazing. And I think there's a couple reasons why. Okay. Number 1, it's because early on we were trained to do that because we couldn't eat a lot at one time. And so we had to eat often. At our point now, it's no longer relevant, right? We can eat enough to sustain our bodies in a meal. All right. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the fact that we are seeking volume eating, right? I mean, just because our stomach was decreased in size, nothing happened to our brains wanting to eat to fill something, right? And so if the physical ability to eat large volumes is taken away, then we're going to adapt in however we're able to adapt physically, and that is to still consume what we want or larger large volumes of food, but we have to do it over an entire day's period. So sometimes people say, oh, yeah, it's great. When I go out to a restaurant, I can only eat, a half of a meal. But then I'll just save it. And then an hour later, I'll finish it. So it's like, okay, but logically you realize you just ate a whole meal, right? So how is that better than before, right? So I think that we come to this grazing all day long because of that. And then sometimes we've just been told that if we eat frequently, we stimulate our metabolism. So it's just terrible. It's bad advice. It's not true. There's no validation to that whatsoever. So now what we're left with is this scientific concept that every time we eat, even if we're eating perfectly and we're eating protein and vegetables that are low starch carb vegetables, we are raising our blood sugar some. It's a response to eating. The only foods that don't raise our blood sugar is pure fat. That's why keto diets are so popular, because it's the primary consumption of fat is the basis of that diet. Okay. So, we need to constrict our eating window some. And so that's success kind of habit number 2 is condensing your eating window. Now, how far you do it? I mean, this is kind of one of those things that needs, kind of some guidance, right? Because I mean, it depends on your medical issues. It depends on where you're starting at. But certainly, when some of the bigger studies say that the average American eats over a 16-hour-a-day window, that's too much. Certainly it should not be more than 12 hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I mean, that's like a maximum eating window, right? But so depending on where you're starting, you should just shrink it less than. If you're eating 16, go to 12. If you're already doing 12, well, maybe consider going to 8. But the idea is the more time of the day or night in a 24-hour period, the more of that time you are spent doing nothing but taking in water, so eating nothing, the more time you have to spend in fat burning mode and the more time you are not blocking fat breakdown. So, yeah. The other thing is that intermittent fasting, which is what this is basically considered. Some people call it time restricted eating, it works really well in a bariatric lifestyle because we don't have that huge hunger hormone that we did before. And so it's a little bit easier for us to do it. And I think most of the clients that we work with, even though at first there's a lot of resistance, because I know the thought of intermittent fasting, the word fasting has such a negative connotation, it scares people. But the general overwhelming response to implementing something like this is that it works really well for giving you some food freedom, right? Because now there's a defined period of time where you don't have to think about eating. You just know, I'm just not doing it. There's no choices to be made. There's no this or that. And food is off the table. And, it just kind of starts giving you some of that control back and also proving to you that you really don't need to eat as often as you thought you did. Want to add anything there? You're a big advocate of time restricted eating. So,
she says it's food freedom. It's lifestyle freedom. It frees your mind from having to consider and think about what is my next meal, particularly if you have a set in stone regimen when your first time that you're going to eat in that eating window is something like a protein shake. It's just so easy. There's no thought to it. There's nothing. It's not, gee, should I stop at Wawa or, the pilot station and get something? No, it's irrelevant. You don't need to think about it. Just know that your protein shake's waiting for you when your eating window starts, and that's it.
Oh boy, we went right to number 4. All right, number 3, do not drink while you eat or for 60 minutes after. It is, in my opinion, it
is, I think, the core fundamental behavior that needs to be changed the moment you have surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like something judgmental was about to come out of my mouth because I was going to say it's just stupid, but I think it's just because I've been, I know what I know because I've been doing this 25 years, but it is a contributing factor in every single person who gains significant amounts of weight. So
absolutely,
if you don't change anything from this 5 days, you can at least change this because this is just a habit, right? Your pouch, just think of it like a funnel. Liquids go right through it. Once it's full of solids, it should stay that way. If you want to stay fuller on less food for a longer period of time, then you will just drink before you eat, stop when you take your first bite, and wait an hour after you stop after you're finished. So you're not washing food through your pouch. So I give the analogy to people in the office who challenge me on this. It's like this. Imagine you took a container of cottage cheese, a big one, and you took it and poured it out on your shower drain. It would take time for that to fully trickle through the drain, right? Now, envision you turn on the faucet. What happens to the cottage cheese? It's gone. And that's exactly what happens to your food. Yeah, Felice, I'm the same way. To me, it's not a big challenge because I just physically can't do it. It makes me feel sick, but not everybody's like that. So,
No, and there is a slight difference between sleeves and bypasses.
mhm.
So a bypass would conceptually have a much shorter length funnel than a sleeve. So difficulty in drinking after sleeve is a little bit greater than it is after bypass. In a bypass, if you drink after you eat, you're literally flushing. It's like flushing the toilet, excuse the expression, but you just flush everything you put in your pouch right on through.
Yeah.
It's gone.
I know that was a big thing for you that you needed to change, and you
Mhm.
did, and it made a huge difference. I noticed that you ate, it was the change in you of eating a normal person's meal to eating a meal like I was eating. When
Right.
you, just by stopping eating and drinking together.
Absolutely.
So Nancy's saying she gets so thirsty, it's hard not to drink. Yeah, but like there's a couple things with that. It's like, okay, then maybe you're not well hydrated throughout the day. Or maybe your food is too salty, or maybe overspiced or something, right? It's like start paying attention to those clues. But at the end of the day, so what, you're thirsty. I get thirsty when I exercise, and that when I get to go have a drink, it's like amazing. It feels so good. It tastes good. It feels good. It's just like, ah, right? It's the same thing. You're like, I'm going to wait. Like I can wait an hour, and it's going to feel good when I get to drink again. And then you're going to consume, a good amount of fluids.
When you sit down to a meal, hydrate yourself. If you haven't been well hydrated throughout the day, sit down and have 1 or 2 glasses of fluid, whatever you need to rehydrate. Then have your solid food. It will make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention about that also is from a functional medicine standpoint, it's really not even just a behavior that bariatric patients should be doing. Everybody really should not be drinking while they're eating, at least not, a 64-ounce big gulp or something that we get served, right? Because it's diluting out our stomach acid and our digestive enzymes. So we're not properly digesting our food. And like the downstream effect of that is a million different things. So if you want to really digest your food well, which we all do, then we don't want to dilute out the acids and things that are responsible for doing that.
We recommend continuous blood glucose monitoring. That's a more specific recommendation that goes along more in the coaching that we would have to talk about when we knew who you are.
I
And
mean, those kind of things can be good for information. It's just then what do you do with it, right? So you kind of have to have somebody working alongside of it, or do one of those programs that provides the analysis.
Aren't they by prescription anyways?
Yeah, but there's some online that you can buy. They're
Always
kind of
there.
expensive,
Yeah.
like a $300 a month
Figures.
subscription thing. Did I skip 4? Yes, a good supplement program and getting it verified. I mean, is it good? Well, you should be getting annual testing to verify that. It's critical to know, like you need data to know if you're adequately supplementing for your needs. The only thing we know for sure is that every bariatric patient, sleeve and bypass, needs appropriate supplementation. Now, there are pages and pages and pages of guidelines that are written by the society. So it's pretty easy to figure out what you should be taking because it's published.
It's only 35 pages long.
Yeah, I mean, we know what it is, except the fact that like most people that are non-medical or not interested in bariatrics are never going to read that. Basically it's, people need a multivitamin, iron, there's calcium and gastric bypass, but without going into like real specifics here, we recommend a bariatric vitamin line. We have a bariatric vitamin line. We developed it 25 years ago when there was no bariatric vitamin line, because we were having trouble getting people on a vitamin program that made sense without, lots and lots of pills and, getting the right kind of balance of things. You need more of one thing, but not there's not issues with another vitamin or something. So you're taking too much of one thing if you take 3 vitamins, and you're not getting enough of something else. So bariatric vitamin lines is typically what good programs recommend. But I just kind of throw in here to say that your body needs nutrients to run every single process in the body, including weight loss. I know for me personally, when I had an iron deficiency, I felt so weak and low energy that I literally gained 10 pounds just eating my way to try to get some energy back. Right. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but
let me just explain a little bit more. When you don't have adequate vitamin and mineral supplementation, your body triggers a drive to eat to try and achieve replenishment of that missing vitamin or mineral. And so you're driven to eat more while your body's seeking to get what it needs. And it is a significant contributor to weight gain.
Yeah. And somebody says, this is a big fallacy. Why do you need vitamins if you're eating a wide variety of foods? Number one, you're not. Even the recommendations for the recommended daily allowance for most vitamins and minerals are based on the idea of eating 5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. And I'd be hard pressed to find any bariatric patient who did that. Typically, our diets are not diverse because there's certain things we don't tolerate well. We're eating less of it. We're not getting enough. And then we also have mechanisms that were created from surgically, such as we have malabsorption, either in a bypass, we have a whole piece of our intestines that's not receiving food, or supplementation that is responsible for absorbing a huge amount of nutrients.
And in sleeve gastrectomy, we remove part of the stomach,
80%-ish.
Right. And that portion of the stomach that makes factors that combine with the vitamins and minerals to help them be absorbed further down in the intestine.
Yeah.
So whether it's one or the other, you're missing a big component of what helps you to be healthy.
Yeah. So there just is no kind of really such thing as a healthy diet outsmarting a bariatric procedure.
Correct. I love that a body in balance.
A body in balance is a body willing to do what we're asking it to.
Exactly. Love that.
Number 5, clean up your diet. So we talked about this, I don't know, was it day 2, day 1? We've talked about it already, but sugar-free everything is putting chemicals in your machine. It confuses the body. When we bring in toxins to the body, it likes to sequester it into fat to get it out of our body and just sequester it away. It can create an immune response, inflammation. It wrecks the gut microbiome. And studies are clear that, for the purposes of, if we're trying to eat a low carbohydrate diet and we're trying to stabilize blood sugar and insulin levels, most of these artificial sweeteners do not allow us to do that. So we think we're doing good, but we're sabotaging ourselves constantly by all the things we're drinking and, eating that are sugar-free. So far, we don't have any data to say that the cleaner products like monk fruit and stevia and erythritol have quite the same effects. So for now, we're left to say that, that's a better substitution.
And we seriously hope that 10 years from now, we're not having to retract those words.
Yeah. And, also worth noting is that, pesticides on food are also a toxin that has been associated with obesity as well, just because we're, again, sequestering that stuff away into our fat cells and creating more fat cells if we need to in order to sequester more. I know organic is costly, trust me. But, I do kind of recommend getting familiar with the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. It's put out by the Environmental Working Group, or EWG. They have great apps and things that are free. But at least the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen lets you know what produce is kind of safe to consume non-organic, and then which ones you should not consider. So.
And I'd love to give a few clues about which ones, but you know what? They might not research the actual Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen if we give them clues. So I
Mhm.
want them to see that information so that they incorporate that information in there.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff we're covering tonight that so my
Yeah.
husband is drinking carbonated drinks and I think has made his pouch stretch. He's only 30 pounds away from yeah. So I the soda thing is a controversial one. I don't know that there's any science to say that carbonation stretches a pouch.
But
But it's terrible for you otherwise,
and it may impair mineral absorption
for sure.
because carbonation can combine with things that precipitate them out, meaning once they combine, they're not absorbable.
Yeah, and phosphorus leaches calcium. So, plus it's either you're drinking sugar, which is terrible for you in terms of, weight management, or you're drinking artificial sweeteners, which are almost as bad. So, which one are you going to do? I mean, there's a lot of, it's very clear in the science that people who drink diet soda did not lose any weight, nor did they have improvement in their diabetes once they switched from regular to diet. So, what's up with that, right? I mean, so either way, unless we're just talking, sparkling water,
And not sweetened sparkling water.
yeah, we probably need to give the soda stuff up. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you're getting a lot of info. Number 6, hydrate with clean water. Here's the thing, like, I don't know, along the way where we heard 64 ounces was the goal, right? As a recommendation. No, the literal actual goal is 1/2 to 1 ounce of water per pound of our current body weight.
What? No way.
So
Yes,
we're
way.
all dehydrated right now, all of us.
Water.
64 ounces is not good for, like, it's not enough for any of us, but we know for sure that we get hungry oftentimes when we're actually just thirsty because we're trying to seek out the water component out of our foods. I would never leave the bathroom. Yeah, but man, you would be so toxin free and you'd be pooping like a dream.
I think that's a fallacy that you'll never leave the bathroom. It's only because your body's not used to that. When your
Mhm.
body gets used to that, you get into a rhythm where you actually don't try and urinate when your bladder's got a tiny bit in it. It allows your bladder to expand.
And I think a lot of the issues with people peeing frequently is actually an electrolyte imbalance. When we don't have enough sodium on board, we don't hold on to it long. So it
And
kind of goes
toxins
right
in the
through it.
bladder.
Yeah.
I believe it's toxins in the bladder too.
And I also, for me personally, drinking is a big diversion from snacking for me. I have amazing water and fruit concoction recipes. I went through a period of time where I invested in a tabletop ice machine that put out ice cubes that were like the Sonic cubes, the like small little kind of soft crunchy ones. Because hey, it's better than eating, right? I mean, we need to like substitute, and drinking is sure a good way to do that.
Quality of water you should touch on too for just a moment. Everybody in their locale has a different quality of city water or tap water, and as well, the waters you buy in the store have different qualities also.
The thing is that plastics that we're consuming are doing us terrible harm. They're endocrine disruptors. They decrease our thyroid function. And so really trying to get away from plastics, it is best. So like for us, we invested in a water filtration system for our sink and for our refrigerator. And we use, just the like non-plastic kind of cups and even sports bottles and stuff. We have the sports ones that are made out of aluminum. So yeah, I mean, we've got to do something about our plastics. Is this truly the next slide?
Well, when you run from 6 to 7,
Okay, good.
yeah.
I'm a water snob. Yeah, and me too, Nancy. I know, and you go to a restaurant and just like can't even smell the water that they give you, right? Number 7, we've got to develop a system for self-monitoring and accountability. This is like taking our head out of the sand, right? That's like, the fear of, oh, I don't weigh myself because I don't like to. I don't like to get on the scale. No, like you have to. You have to weigh yourself and write it down. You also have to have a plan in place for what you do when the scale goes up. Um, you know, ideally, in what we teach in weight maintenance is there's a target weight. And when you're 4 pounds above that, it's time to go back to the roadmap and go back to your, kind of plan that worked to get you there. For sure, developing new habits that help keep you accountable, like journaling, like, tracking your food, weighing your food, tracking your fluid ounces, tracking your protein grams, doing those kinds of things can be really beneficial when it comes to providing you some data to give you feedback on where you need to, really step it up from a skill standpoint. At the end of the day, you have to also recognize that if it's not a skill you're good at, if it's not a skill if it's not even something how to tackle, then you're going to need to ask for help. You're going to need to go back to your bariatric program. You're going to have to go to your dietitian. You're going to have to, work with us in coaching, something where you're going to get some support, some skills and some support around, making these changes and holding yourself accountable. All right. Number 8, planning. Oh my gosh. This week in coaching, this is our topic. It's changed my life, and I could not be successful in any areas of my life if I wasn't super intentional about planning my week. But weight maintenance does take a lot of effort, and it doesn't just happen because you had bariatric surgery. And I know that you guys know it, but it doesn't hurt to continue to say it. The surgery was just a tool so that it would be easier for you to make the changes, but you still have to figure out a way to make the changes that are necessary. So when it comes to planning, you need to schedule out your week, because so many of us give into this eat on the run, grab and go, stop at a fast food or stop and pick something up, get something from the vending machine, God forbid, because we just didn't take the food that we needed with us, right? The appropriate food to nourish our bodies and keep us on track. So this means getting intentional about sitting down once a week, getting out a planner, and scheduling out your week. What does it look like? When are you going to be coming home late or have evening meetings or sporting events or whatever that you're not going to be able to cook? How are you going to accommodate for that? Are you going to cook extra the night before? Are you going to have something in the freezer that you cooked last week that you can bring out? It's really just having things on hand that are appropriate and that serve your body. Because without that, we will falter. we will definitely slip up.
Without that, you get in a pinch. What do? You
Chips,
call Domino's, or there's so many opportunities for getting bad things for your nutritionally. You got to plan to get good things.
Yeah.
Schedule time in for yourself.
Schedule time in for yourself. Gosh, when it comes to things like emotional eating, right? Isn't it true that so many of us, we're so good at taking care of everybody else? And sometimes I wonder whether that's just a distraction from doing the work we need to do on us. Because I'm so good at distracting myself, keeping busy, that I don't have time to focus on me. But scheduling time in for yourself so that you can replenish, so that you can unwind, so that you don't just go from one thing to the next feeling exhausted and depleted. It's important. So, make that part of your plan as well. And then, scheduling and things like moving your body, because that's got to be planned out or it ain't going to happen.
Move it.
Number 9, find your tribe. Y'all, how difficult is this bariatric journey, especially because so often we're alone in it and nobody understands. Nobody gets it. You've got people trying to sabotage you everywhere you turn. Oh, you can have a little. Or why do you eat like that? It's so weird, right? Or you're no fun. You have like even your partners a lot of times bringing you like your favorite donut from the donut store, right? It's crazy. It makes it so hard to not just get things started, but to keep them going, right? Because we don't have our tribe. People around us generally are not health seekers. And so we need to become the healthy deviant because listen, 66% of the United States is overweight or obese at this point. The norm is people who do not eat healthy. So we're now like if trying to be a health seeker, we're kind of like the abnormal one. So I read a book once called The Healthy Deviant, and it was like eye-opening. It's true. We have to be willing to become the healthy deviant. And it's going to require us to have others in our corner that align with our goals, that can help us, just support us. It's somebody that can go for a walk with us. It's somebody we can call on the phone that can understand that we had a bad day and all we're thinking about is like going off our diet and blowing it. And it's also being aware of the people in our lives who are like triggers for us, who like frustrate us so bad that we like every time indulge in like a pint of ice cream, because we're so frustrated. It's figuring out those triggers and, kind of stepping away from them, right? Seeking out other health seekers to help motivate you. So it can be in your community, in your neighborhood, in your family, in your friend group, online here in our group. There's lots of people who are looking forward to taking the health seeking road. Here in this group, it's one of the things that's like phenomenal about our group is just, you don't hear like people talking about which ways they can cheat their operation here. So y'all can use each other.
Speaking of, Dory here has asked a question about flavors for water. Is that a bad thing, being sugar-free ones? Usually the sugar-free ones have a sugar substitute in them. So you really need to become a label reader. You really need to become familiar with all the words that end in like OSE, OS. That's usually some form of artificial sweetener.
OS or AIM, AME.
Right.
Aspartame, Escals, BAME. How do you say that?
Yeah, that way. The words get harder and harder to pronounce. I think the way that you can look at it is if you can read it, if you can look at a label and there's 3, 4, 5 ingredients and you can say all the words, it's probably reasonably healthy.
I mean, listen, it's like we have to like just not always try to be like perfect. Sometimes we have to just we have to kind of put things into a category. Is it terrible? Is it better than we would have chosen? Or is it like the best? The best would be, like what I try to do most of the time, and that's smash up some berries, put a little basil or mint in it, put it in a pretty glass with some crushed ice and call it lovely. But, we also sometimes don't want to just drink plain water, and we like to have something a little bit different or tasty. So something, without sucralose or things that end in AIM. There's more and more of them now. I think there's even Gatorade has gotten with the movement, and they made Gatorade Fit, which is made with stevia and no artificial colors. That's a huge leap. I mean, huge. I'm proud. I'm proud because Gatorade, guys, is terrible. Gatorade Zero, awful. Decaf teas are great. Teas are such a good health. They have such good health benefits. So yeah, fancy or pretty cup, man. It just needs to be special. It needs to be special. All right. So let's move on to number 10 is find your joy. Oh my gosh. It's vitamin J. Like, we can't forget that vitamin. It's crucial. We have got to step out of using food as our primary source of pleasure. I mean, because that's where the freedom is, right? And it's not an easy journey because we really want to, that's our identity. I mean, our identity was, we went to vacations based on what restaurants were in the city we were going to, right? I mean,
That is correct.
we ate, we drank good wine, and we were obese and miserable. And it really took us finding, and I mean, we had to be really intentional about it, finding new hobbies, finding things that brought us pleasure. Sometimes we're left with just taking a drive to someplace new in the country.
And then taking a walk.
But we have got to divert our attention away from our passion for food and into growing joy in other ways, in other things. So I like to think of it too, in that there's a ton of stuff that we couldn't have done or wouldn't have done when we were heavier. And most of us have lost a good deal of weight at this point, right? It's time to, like, kind of respect that we have made progress and that we are in a better place than we used to be, and get busy trying to find new activities to bring us some happiness. Start a list. I think that everybody should have a list of some, adventure things they'd like to try, some, kind of relaxing at home things that they would like to do, so that whenever you're bored or restless or frustrated and you just want to eat, you just pull up your list and pick something.
You should share your list from 2023.
2023.
This year. You said, before the year is out, I'm going to do these things, and you've done most of them.
Yeah, I do have a list of things to consider trying. So, well,
Like ziplining.
did you read my list?
You did it. I didn't have to read your list.
Anyways, all right. So the last one I want to talk about is movement. This is sort of a complex topic, so I just want to say a couple things about it. Movement does matter, right? However, as far as weight loss goes, exercise, especially kind of like getting on the treadmill, cardiovascular exercise, is not likely to exhibit dramatic effects for weight loss, okay? Because of that whole metabolic adaptation, because our bodies are always trying to find equilibrium. And so when we expend more calories, guess what happens to our bodies? It is going to prompt us to take in more calories, right? Because we're always trying to be in balance. So typically, what studies find is that people who exercise, on the days they exercise, eat more calories. And so the weight loss effects is kind of, then it cancels it out. It's negligible. However, there is a huge benefit in exercise if we're strategic about it. All right. Number one, cardiovascular exercise is fantastic for improving mood and decreasing stress. And most of us do find ourselves in the pantry when we're stressed or in a bad mood. So it does go a long way. So indirectly, it's a habit stacking behavior. Whereas, when we spend some time working out or, being active, we're less likely to come home and down a sleeve of Oreos, right? So there is a lot of benefit to mood and to health for various markers for health. Okay. So I don't want to say exercise is not important, but I do want to say that you cannot exercise your way out of a crappy diet. You cannot binge out or eat, just whatever you want and then be like, yeah, but I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. It will not get you anywhere. All right. And specifically when we look at exercise that's good for us, and people keep saying, well, how do I increase my metabolism? How do I build back my metabolism? This is it. It's weight training and resistance training to build back muscle. Muscle is where our metabolism lies. That and our thyroid is important. So, you always want to make sure your thyroid's functioning properly. That's a good marker to check.
I mean, don't not include vital organs like brain. That's your largest energy consumer in your body, liver,
Yes.
heart. I mean, all your organs consume energy, but you can't think or heartbeat or liver process your way out of a crappy diet. You can improve your metabolism, as you said, and you're actually answering a question that came through earlier that we didn't get around to because we were going to do it now. But that is the only real way to boost your metabolism.
Yeah.
Is to add muscle to your body.
Yeah. So Kathy has some really good wisdom. Kathy works with us. And so what we find with people, like what we've kind of find as a group of people really doing like the work of kind of figuring this thing out, is that most people that use any kind of artificial sweeteners and then they go on an elimination challenge and they just kind of like try to eliminate it, will tell you that their cravings significantly decreased when they did that. And so for them, it was like they realized that the artificial of any kind, even the gooder, the better kind, the stevia and stuff, was a trigger. So, Kathy says that for her, it raised any drink additives raised the blood sugar almost as much as regular sugar. So, and we find that a lot as well. Like even the protein drinks. That's why we only advocate for one brand of protein drink, because it is literally the only one that does not have all that stuff in it. So it's called Levels, by the way. I post about it all the time. And I have a discount code. If you have not tried Levels yet, you should. It's great. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing. Smash cucumbers. Yeah, I like cucumber and mint. It's sort of like spa-like to me. I don't use it super often, Kristen, though. I like fruit better. Back to the weight resistance training. So lifting weights, doing sports bands, putting ankle weights while you do a walk, having 5-pound weights or 2-pound weights, whatever you can manage to carry while you're doing a walk. And then there's something called HIIT, high intensity interval training. So this is sort of like, it's a class, but it's also a movement. So you might have entire gyms that are focused on HIIT. Mm-hmm. But this is like, and it's also easy to do yourself. I mean, you can like Google it or you can watch YouTube videos on it. The idea is you go very high intensity. So let's say you did like a sprint as fast as you could go for 1 minute. And then you like rested and you just kind of like walked leisurely for 2 minutes. And then you ran again for 1.5 minutes.
Hard as you can.
As hard as you can. It's like trickery to the body because it's like it's switching back and forth and it's kind of confusing it. And so the overall metabolism increase for the day when you're doing HIIT is pretty significant. So for bariatric patients, I think HIIT is something to consider if you're going to get serious about exercise. And then the last thing to talk about is this idea that, we're all about lowering our blood sugar, therefore lowering our insulin. And we know that exercising after a meal, even if it's just a brisk walk for 10 minutes, anything we're doing that's going to really work our big muscle groups is going to require glucose. So it helps us take our glucose out of the blood and put it into the muscles to be used. And there we have a lower spike of blood sugar and insulin after a meal. So if you did nothing else and you wanted to just start something, beneficial from a bariatric weight loss standpoint, you would just take a nice brisk walk for 10 minutes after each meal. Pretty easy. All right. Well, I did it. It's 7:54 and we're basically at the end. So we'll definitely take a few questions. I did want to make a challenge because what are the fruits? When it comes to fruits, we mainly just do a lot of berries, and then I use a lot of herbs. However, I think when for most people, putting, even things that are maybe not on the low carb food list in your water to infuse it when you're not eating it is probably pretty safe. I want to do a chat. I want to challenge you guys to take that low carb food list, which thank you, Kristen, for posting it in the chat. For you in Facebook, it is in the group under the documents. I posted it there earlier this week. Just open it up, print it out, or, open it up and just kind of make a note of it and make one low carb meal this week. I wish I could give the deadline tomorrow, but that's a little much. Sometime before Friday, make an entire meal using only things from that list and post a picture of it in the group with a hashtag 5-day challenge, because this is like letting yourself like identify as somebody who's taking action, and it's letting other people know you're serious. Maybe y'all will find the people who are really serious about taking action, and you guys can, be like support for each other. Creamy mashed cauliflower. Yes, that is my favorite. You will fall in love with mashed cauliflower, and it's delicious. So let's start some momentum and have some fun. And if y'all would, let me know you're serious by doing the challenge and just taking a picture of a low carb meal that you made this week and posting it in the group. And
don't forget about the Clean 15.
Oh, yes.
And the Dirty Dozen. Look for that list too.
And tomorrow is like back to emotional day. Okay. So
no.
Yeah.
Am I going to cry?
Oh, I don't know. But don't worry. You won't be like, I'll handle most of it.
Okay.
Because I know how hard it is for you to like,
get emotional,
get through it.
Yeah. Right. I know.
So because honestly, like I can give these talks all the time about what to do. And the reality is a lot of us will do nothing with it. Or we might do something with it for a little while and then it just like falls off, right? Because the truth is we have all of these faulty beliefs about what we're capable of and why it won't work for us and why we shouldn't do it or won't do it or could do it later or maybe, after this happens or when this happens. And so we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about what are the kind of the common things that hold us back and how we can reframe them, how we can we can just acknowledge that these are just beliefs and they're just fears and we can move past them anyways. So it's kind of an important day because, some of these things might be stuff that is really, really real to y'all. And maybe we can provide some support around moving past them. Thank you all. Don't forget that in managing the disease of obesity, don't forget we have a disease that will require lifelong management. Okay. We will always need to remain diligent. So our work is never done here. It's nothing to be ashamed of that we need to revisit our bariatric lifestyle because we will for the rest of our lives. And so I think it should be celebrated that y'all are here and ready to revisit it in a big way. And also remember that there's specific management for a metabolic disease such as obesity, and it requires a metabolic solution. So that's what we're kind of here to teach you about. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time.
Look for the replay.
Yes. Bye. Bye.